You're listening to the Blatino Nerd. Uncut, uncensored, unfiltered. Get dirty and keep it nerdy.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Blatino Nerd. And if you haven't noticed from my greeting, my voice is a little less excitable and joyful. And that's because tonight is a very, very special episode of the Blatino Nerd. And this one is basically dedicated to the people of my city, the place I still call home, despite the fact that I've been away for quite some time. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump. But tonight, as I sit here with my cup full of Coke and Terramana tequila, I'm thinking about everything that's been going on in my city of Paterson, and my heart has just been torn, and I've actually been struggling internally with it for the past few days, which is why that this episode comes a little later than my usual weekly or twice a week podcast. But it's because I had to process and get together and think about what I was going to say. And I know you guys have read the news reports, you've shared them. More than half of my friends list on Facebook, and you guys are all from Paterson, so we know what's going on. And it seems like every day it's something new. There's another tragedy hitting us. If it's not the crime, it's the drug rate, all of those things. It's mostly with the shootings going on lately, and it seems like every day we have to put another RIP post. And it's hitting me, like it hits home for me, because these were the streets I grew up on. These are the streets where so many people, including all of my family members, are, they still call it home. And they still walk these streets every night. They still drive these streets. They still call this place home. And while I was lucky to get out, my heart will always be with my people in the city of Paterson. So with this episode, I'm going to, those of you who may not know about my city, and I'm going to keep calling it my city because while I am located outside of Paterson, New Jersey, it is always going to be my city. I am proud of where I come from, and nothing will ever change that. But I'm going to remind you guys that my city was once great, and it holds such a special place in history. And what we're going to do is, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the history of the city of Paterson. Some of my fondest memories of growing up in the city of Paterson, my thoughts of everything going on, and what I think we can do to make Paterson as great as it once was. And I know that's going to take some time, but I do believe that it's very possible. Before I get into that, though, I just want to talk about a great new product that I have been using for the past few weeks now, and tell you guys that I am out of the shower and feeling fresh thanks to my boy Adam Hendel and the people at Ballsy and their amazing men's care products. Look, guys, let's be real, it's hot. If you're like me, you're out working all day, you're out in the gym. Well, the gyms are closed, but you're out working out. Maybe you just got out of the shower. Or maybe, you got some last minute quarantine plans. Maybe you're some lucky woman's dick appointment. Thing is, you don't want to go feeling unclean, fresh, smelly down there. You know what I'm saying? Not to worry, though, because the team at Ballsy, they've got your sack. No bullshit ingredients. Only the good stuff, like essential oils, plant extracts, I am a big fan of the ball wash, the nut butt and body wash. Has me smelling fresh all day, every day. And, along with that, you can get your little ballsy care package, which includes a sack spray, which neutralizes the odor, and nut rub, a solid cologne to kind of put everything together. And their patented formula is to keep you smelling fresh, do away with chafing, do away with all the foul shit. Look, we know our ladies take care of themselves. They pride themselves on the way they look, the way they smell, the way they feel. Why couldn't you do the same? Yeah, sure, soap and water, fine. But Irish Spring only goes so far, my guy. Which is why I'm here to hook you up. Because my people at Ballsy have hooked me up with a special discount code, which I'm going to bless you with right now. If you go to the website and use the keyword Blatino, that's Blatino, you'll get 20% off of your Ballsy purchase. Plus free shipping with any purchase over $75, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I trust once you start using these products, it's going to become a regular thing. So that's Ballsy, Ballsy, and you can pick those up at ballwash.com. Discount code Blatino Nerd. Men's grooming products for man parts. They got your sack. Like as I was saying originally, tonight's episode is going to tell you guys about the place I have called home for, most of my life, just right up until I got married and, had to leave. It was partially me wanting to, partially, wanting to move on to better things, and partial, I really didn't, want my kid to grow up here, But anyway, I digress. So, a little brief history about where I come from, and you have to forgive me if I'm stumbling over my words. The drink is hit, and I'm feeling a little emotional, so forgive me. Paterson was founded in 1791 by Alexander Hamilton. Yes, that very Hamilton. Those of you with Disney Plus know what I'm talking about. And he, at the time, was actually the very first United States Secretary of Treasury. And he had founded the Society for the Establishment of Useful Manufacturers, also known as SUM. And their main purpose was to harness the energy from the Great Falls to secure economic independence from British manufacturers. They would then found the city of Paterson, which became the cradle. We were the first industrial city in the United States. We were great. We had textiles. We had silk. Hence our name, the Silk City. And we basically, well, not we, but what they basically did was they learned to harness the powers of the Great Falls through a channel in the rock and an aqueduct. However, the rest of the members of the society thought that Alexander Hamilton was taking just a bit too long on this, so in stepped Peter Colt, who used a reservoir system to get water flowing to the factories. Eventually, Colt's system developed some problems, and they had to use a scheme. They had to change their plans around 1846 or so. And while Paterson was originally a part of Essex County, a newly created Passaic County became home to Paterson in 1837. We finally became a city in 1851, based on the results of a referendum they held that day. So on March 14th, 1861, we were reincorporated as the city of Paterson, New Jersey. And we were the epicenter of everything. We had mills, textile industry, firearm, locomotive manufacturing industries. As a matter of fact, the latter half of the 19th century became the dominant industry, and it formed the basis of our most prosperous period. And, as time went on, we got the Hincliffe Stadium, which was home to the New York Black Yankees of the Negro National League. We also had the Paterson Panthers, the Newark Bears, the Jersey City Giants. They all called Hincliffe Stadium home. We also get performances by the late, great Lou Costello, a very, very great Paterson native. As you guys will remember, the Who's on First sketch. Anybody who went to school in the city of Paterson knows the Who's on First sketch. It's in any classroom ever. And basically around 1963, the stadium was actually taken over by the Paterson Public Schools, who finally closed it down in 1996. However, fun fact about Hincliffe Stadium, it is one of only 2 surviving Negro Baseball League stadiums, the other one being Rickwood Field in Alabama. Hincliffe Stadium is actually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So Paterson has had its place in history. Without Paterson, there's a lot of things that, don't happen. Well, not don't happen, but we were the epicenter for everything. We were the first industrial city. We had like the first true business district. We had a major shopping area. Like Paterson was the sole shopping area before Wayne and Paramus and all those other places started opening their malls. Like Paterson was the place to be. And through it all, Paterson's been bombed, been burned to the ground, been flooded beyond belief. Those of you who were around and had the misfortune of being struck by Sandy. And through it all, we've persevered, we survived. And it pains me to see that such a beautiful city, and it is beautiful. The news reports, the newspapers, the pictures, they don't do it justice. The city is beautiful. If you can look beyond the boarded up buildings, those are just reminders of what once was. And we've persevered through so much, and that's why it pains me to see what has been going on in my city lately, where it just seems like people are just dying needlessly. I've lived there my entire life. I grew up in the Christopher Columbus housing development on Matlock Street, affectionately known as CCP for those who live there. Shout out to everybody from CCP. If you're still with us, yo, what's up? Glad you're still here. And there are so many of us who aren't anymore. Hell, a large majority of the kids I grew up with aren't here anymore. And that breaks my heart because, so these are young lives, For those of you who don't know, I'm 32. 32 years I've been blessed to, be on this earth. And again, you have to forgive me. I'm fumbling over my words. I don't even intend to edit this because I want you guys to get the full range of emotion, because you may not get this from me again. There's no telling. But again, I had the pleasure of growing up in the Christopher Columbus projects. I lived we started in building 3. Then I made my way into the little row buildings. 5H, I believe, was our apartment we lived in. And then that got snuffed out by a fire. I made my way over to building 1, which anybody who lived in TCP will tell you, unless they lived in 3 and 4, building 1 and 2 were where it was at, man. We were 1-2 live all day, every day. And I remember growing up, you know, while most kids were outside, you know, they were riding their bikes or on rollerblades. Rollerblades were the thing back then. They were outside, you know, shooting off cap guns. Oh, cap guns, remember those? Or, you know, letting off poppers or just running around playing tag, freeze tag. Little girls are out playing jump rope, hopscotch. Then, you know, you had me. I was the kid sitting on the bench reading. I was the kid sitting on the bench with his radio. And my nickname, actually, as a kid, was everyone in the neighborhood called me Brainiac. Because, you know, I would settle arguments. You know, people would argue and they would, Brainiac, come here. And then they would ask you a question. And, you know, because, you know, I read a lot. At like 9 years old, I had the complete Encyclopedia Britannica, because my mother just, you know, it's not that my mother wanted to keep me in the house. Quite the opposite. My mother was very, 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 like, encouraging. Like, whatever I wanted to do, as long as it didn't result in me getting injured or killed or in trouble, my mother was all for it. And, you know, my mother knew that it wasn't the best, you know, it wasn't the best living situation, but, you know, we did what we could. Growing up, you know what, I was blessed, man. I'm not even gonna lie. And this is like, I guess, a rags to riches story, because, you know, my family we did grow up poor, but my mother bust her ass every day. So, like, as a kid, I had everything I wanted. I was the only kid in the hood who had a go-kart. I shit you not. It was an Oreo go-kart. I got it when I was like 5 or 6 for Christmas, and I was the only kid in the hood in an actual go-kart. And all the other kids would want to ride it, and a lot of these kids, you know, I had only talked to in passing, because, you know, I wasn't my thing. And I was the kid who read comic books. I was the kid who played video games nonstop. I had Super Nintendo. I had a Genesis. I had an NES. We had an Atari. We had a ColecoVision. Like, there was no shortage of things for me to do. And as a result, I would often, you know, whenever I would get kids who I thought were my friends or whatever, and I'd invite them over to come play some video games, something in my room always ended up missing. And me not really being able to see the bad in people, which is a fault that I still kind of have now. They didn't take it from me. I probably lost it. And my mother was like, you don't lose anything. Your bookshelf is in alphabetical order. Which was true. It wasn't even an OCD thing. It actually just kind of happened that way. So whenever I took a book or a game, I knew what slot it was in, and I always put it back. So, yeah. And then, as I got a little older, I hit, you know, first, second, even third, fourth grade. I started making actual friends. And these were kids who were kind of into the same thing I was into. Like, most of them were just like in the video games. But then I had the one small group of friends who, shout out to Mimi and Joe and Billy. You guys were like my first real, like, best friends, because they were not only into, like, video games, they were into anime, which back then was, like, unheard of. Like, our only exposure to anime as kids were, like, Speed Racer, Sailor Moon, and you had to be up early as fuck to catch Sailor Moon, and Samurai Pizza Cats, which, if you guys don't know, and I'm gonna go away from the point a little bit. Samurai Pizza Cats is my favorite anime ever, and I love it because whenever I bring it up, no one ever knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But I guarantee you, Mimi, Joe, and Billy will remember. I will school you guys one day on Samurai Pizza Cats, but that is a different episode for a different situation. And I also remember whenever a new game came out, my mom would walk me downtown because CCP was literally a 3-minute walk across the bridge into downtown Paterson. And we would always go to Woolworth. Shout out to those of us born in the 80s because we are the last generation who would remember Woolworth. And my mom would take me to Woolworth, and I would get whatever the newest game was, and we would just walk around downtown. And you couldn't go downtown and not go to Broadway Pizza to get a slice. It's just that was the rule. We'd go to Woolworth. My mom would go to Easy Pickens, and then we'd grab Broadway Pizza, and then we'd head back home. I'd play my new games, and I moved schools a lot as a kid. As a matter of fact, for kindergarten for kindergarten, I actually ended up at School 1 in Ridgefield Park because they had, I forget, I think it was like some kind of like, not like gifted and talented program, but there was like some kind of program, and I was accepted into it, so that allowed me, basically, like, me and my older sister Kai, like, we got like our own personal transportation to this school in Ridgefield Park, even though we lived in adjacent like projects. Like, I grew up in CCP, but my older sister lived literally across the wall in the towers, and she is actually still there to this day. And it's just, there's so many good times there. And then I ended up in School 5, where I met my buddy Destin, and we clicked immediately. And we were gamers, we were music fans, we just, like, we did it all. And the problem was, when I went home, I would do my homework, and everybody would go outside and play. I would stay in my house, tend to my books, play my video games. And it wasn't that I didn't like the other kids or that I thought they didn't like me. It's just I learned very early that it wasn't always the best environment. There were many nights where I would be awakened by gunshots. There would be nights where I was chased in the house by the sound of gunshots. It wasn't the best, and my mom just wanted to keep me safe because she knew very early on that just whatever went on out there wasn't for me, and I thank her for that. And it just, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get my words mixed up here again, forgive me. And I lived in CCP until the day they finally went bye-bye, and I made my way up to North 5th. I've lived on pretty much every end of Paterson, by the way. I've lived in the projects, I've lived on the main, I've lived through what is considered the nice part of Paterson, off of, well, at least it was back then, off of Wayne Ave, that little intersection there of Union and Wayne. It was considered the nice part. And we just and then right back down to Jefferson Street before I finally made my way to where I am now, which is actually still just a hop, skip, and jump in Paterson. So I end up in Paterson pretty often anyway. And just I remember we would walk on hot days. We would go to actually Lou Costello Memorial Pool, one of the many things in Paterson named for Lou Costello. We'd walk up, me, my cousins, my older sisters, a whole like group of us, we'd make our way up to Costello Pool on hot days. As on days where we couldn't get the water, the fire hydrants open because fire department and police would come shut it down. So, we'd make our way up to Costello Pool and we'd make a day of it. We'd spend hours in the pool. I wasn't much of a swimmer, but I didn't want to be the only one not, in the water. So, and then we'd walk down to Cianci Street. If Costello was closed, we'd just go to Costello Memorial Park over on Cianci Street. They always had the giant sprinklers, and it was a safe space for us. No one ever got in trouble. No one ever did anything they weren't supposed to do. So it was great. And I remember learning about when I was in about 6th or 7th grade. I remember learning that Lou Costello was not the only celebrity we had. I remember the movie The Hurricane came out. If you guys ever seen The Hurricane about Reuben Carter, he was starring Denzel Washington. I learned that Reuben Carter was from the city of Paterson. Fun fact for you 90s kids, Charlie Adler, who is famous for Cow, playing Cow, Chicken, the Red Guy. He's even played on Rocko's Modern Life, is a native Patersonian. Patrick Warburton, for you Family Guy fans, Joe Swanson, native Patersonian. We are now also home to a Super Bowl champion in Victor Cruz, which is funny because, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually a Cowboys fan. He ended up playing for the Giants, and he brought us home a Super Bowl. And there's so many names that go to that now. Fetty Wap, who has helped lead the charge that is putting Paterson back on the map because he sold millions of records. And speaking of my buddy Destin actually produced the final track on that album, which is such a banger, which makes him a platinum selling producer now. Who else do we got here, man? There's so many. Of course, Alexander Hamilton, Donnie Brasco, Just Blaze, who actually we used to run into all the time because his mother is the former principal of my alma mater, Rosa Parks High School. What up, everybody? All of you Rosa Parks alumni out there listening, I appreciate you guys for listening. There's just Joe Mooney, who was an incredible accordionist. Actually, he played the accordion and the organ and was a heck of a singer. I can go on forever. John Ryle, who actually is now has a street named after him in Haledon, where I lived with my wife for 3 years. We moved out shortly after my wonderful baby daughter Haley was born. Bruce Valanche, who is a major gay icon. I can go on forever. It just Paterson is just, it's so rich in its history and its arts and entertainment, and it pains me to see that as I've gotten older, I walk down streets or drive down streets that I used to walk freely with groups of people or even by myself that I don't even want to drive through anymore because it just driving past the library on Broadway, which was where I spent a lot of my time because my mom was the commissioner of the library board for many years. So I spent a lot of time at that library. At one point, pretty sure I had checked out all but maybe 6 books in there. I read the entire Animorphs series because of the Paterson Library. I rented so many Goosebumps books that the librarians would tell my mom, they were like, tell your son we got the new Goosebumps books. And it's crazy to me. I would come home, I would come home from school. I would ask my mom if she was going to the library. We'd jump in the car and I'd walk up the steps. And now I can't even, I can't even walk up those steps. So I can't fathom someone's kid walking up those steps because there's drug needles everywhere. There's just people stretched out across the stairs, and I just, guys, we got to do better. We do. I know these streets. I know them well. I know that they're not pretty. I've seen what the streets have done to people. These streets have taken my dad. These streets have taken so many people that I know, so many kids that I grew up with. As recently as, we lost a legend with Beans a few weeks ago. It's been almost a month now, but shit, it feels like a year already, man. And, I get it. Guys, we gotta do better. I've seen what this city can do when it comes together. When we came together for George Floyd, when we came together for my brother Jameek, who, if you guys don't know, my brother Jameek Lowry had his life taken from him by Paterson police last January. And there's video of him begging for his life, and you can clearly see he didn't do, And I know everybody says that there's another side to the video. There's, we don't know the story, but my brother didn't do anything. He's very clearly on video saying that he's in fear for his life. I don't want to get into it because I get so angry, I get so angry when I think about it, because how do you go to a police department for help and never make it back home? That's wild to me. And with everything going on, especially with the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it strikes home for me. So I know it hurts. I know firsthand. And I know that so many people are going to listen to this and it's going to strike a chord. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I love that everybody is going hard for George Floyd. I love that everybody's going hard for Breonna Taylor. And there are people out there, and not just my family, who are still going hard for my brother. And I thank you guys for that. But I've seen what we can do when we come together. We came together for George Floyd. We came together for Jameek. And we did it. There were no incidents. No one got hurt. No one died. No one had to go to jail. We did it. And I need for us to have that unity for everything. Imagine how much shit we can prevent if just for once, and I know I don't want to sound like one of those cheap ass 90s commercials where let's just talk about it. Some things can't be talked out. I get it. While I've never lived that lifestyle, I've been a part of it. I was raised into it. I get it. I know that it seems that there was, there's no other option, but I want us to be able to come together to prevent these things rather than have to come together once they happen. You guys know what I'm saying, right? I seen the video of how how everybody, I couldn't be a part of it because with everything going on with COVID, I'm needed here. But I saw how you guys came together for Beans. I saw the video. That shit was wild. But I'm What the fuck happened in the first place that they couldn't get together to avoid that happening in the first place? We lost a legend, a bright, bright future, an amazing young man. I mean, I only got to meet him a few times, but yo, he was so fucking chill. And that was one of the last people, along with my brother, he's one of the last people I ever thought that I would have to put an RIP in front of on Facebook. Like, and I don't know the story, so I don't want to get into it, and I don't want to speculate anything, because I'm not here to try to offend anybody, and I'm not here to start rumors, and I'm not here to talk shit. I'm just here as a man who loves his city. I mean, my wife only lived in Paterson. My wife only lived in Paterson for a year and a half, and even she loved it. And it was so different from what she was used to, and she loved it. I mean, the town we live in is not, but I've been here 4 years. I don't know anybody. The only other people in this town I know already lived here, and I knew them when they lived here. I don't know anybody. In Paterson, I knew everybody. I knew everybody on my block. Whether or not I talked to them was irrelevant, but I knew them. And I'm not saying that, like, if cops came knocking on my door, I'd be like, yeah, it was him. No, but I knew everybody. In Paterson, I could go anywhere. I could pick up a phone and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to this, like, hey, Mom, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be on Paterson Ave. I'm going to be on West Broadway. I'm going to be on 10th Ave. Go see my cousins. Don't worry, I'm safe. Man, around here, I'm home. Like, I go to work and I come home. There's really nobody I can be like, well, bro, I'm going to, like, walk to your... No, I don't know anybody. It's weird. Like, I miss the sense of, like, unity and family, because there is that. Like, when I go back to Paterson and I go on the block where, like, my mom lives now, I go on the Ave. I go on 12th Ave. Yo, everybody knows everybody. And I love that. I don't know the story. Them motherfuckers might be beefing, but they don't know each other. And that alone, like, I'm for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, come together. And I don't want to just all of us to come together when someone dies, when someone goes to prison, or some shit happens. Cause like I said, I get it. Death happens. From the time we're born, the one thing that is instilled in us is that this life isn't tomorrow isn't promised. We don't live forever, as much as we would want to. I've had conversations with everyone I know about living forever. And I know it's not the case, but hey, you never know. And it's easy to... excuse me. It's easy to pick up a newspaper or read a magazine article about things going on in Paterson. And I'm probably about to use this word for the first time ever on my podcast. Whether or not it's the last time, I don't know, remains to be seen. But all you guys see on the outside looking in is a bunch of rowdy, rambunctious people acting like niggas. And we're not that. We ain't niggas at all. Like, there's a lot of good, hard-working people in the city of Paterson. There always have been. And we got people who now are working to try their damnedest to restore the city to what it is. I had the benefit of graduating from Rosa Parks High School, as I mentioned. It was a performing arts high school, and the only high school in the country named for Rosa Parks. And our entire student body, my graduating year, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, what up, class of 06? I know some of y'all are listening, and if you're not, let them know to listen, because I'm shouting y'all out. Class of 06. And You know what? Shout out the class of '07 too, because I was friends with a lot of you guys, and I love y'all too. I do, man. And class of '08, I got love for quite a few of you guys as well. I do. I have made some of the best friends of my life because of Rosa Parks High School in the city of Paterson, and because I've had great teachers, many of whom I have on my friends list, and I know she's listening, so hey, Miss Gaston, I had to do it. But yeah, I mean, we have people now who are, and I mean, when I say trying to put Paterson back on the map, not just for one thing, we have all spectrums covered. Like, we got guys like, Benji Wimberly, who has been a major part of the city for years and out there doing everything he can. Valerie Freeman, like the eyes and the ears of the city of Paterson. My boy Justin Rucker, who has dedicated most of his adult life to restoring the city that brought us together back to what it once was. We have people on the entertainment spectrum, guys like, again, Fetty Wap, Hard Luck, Stack Dollars, my boy Rich. Rich is a kid whom I've known since he was literally a kid. We went from hanging out at the mall and fucking bullshitting to, like, we would actually, like, treat this kid like he was one of us. Rich couldn't have been any older than, like, 11 or 12. And we treated him like he was one of us because we looked at him like a little brother. And now here he is, Homeboy's doing records with fucking Arsenal. Like, that is crazy to me. Yo, shout out to Rich, boy. I am fucking proud of you, man. By the way, check him out on YouTube. That's RIXX. If you want to hear some fucking fire. That's right. Any Paterson artists, or if you know any Paterson artists, send them my way. I guarantee you I will give you the love and the play on this podcast all day, every day. I'm here for it. But we got, again, the entertainment spectrum. We got Rich, Stack Dollars, Fetty, Mizzy, my homegirl Alasia, Lele Brown, one of the greatest dancers on earth. And I'm not just saying that because we grew up together. I say it because I dare you to find a motherfucker who can step to her. I dare you. Yeah, Charlie Murphy used to say, challenge Prince to a basketball game. Challenge Lele to a dance-off. I dare you. Do it. See what happens. You have, on the lower end, like the quiet, more low-key spectrum, you have Green Arrow Productions, which is run by two men that I consider the closest thing to brothers I may ever have, Anthony and Joseph Kaola. Anthony is actually the godfather of Haley and his kid brother Joseph. Two amazingly talented filmmakers, and I mean, these guys do it all. Check out Green Arrow Productions on YouTube for some funny shit, and I've actually had the pleasure of being a small part of their production, as well as, I've known them since I probably knew what it was like to have friends. So, those guys too. We have entrepreneurs. We have my girl Mikolai out there doing her thing with the Broke Girls Guide. My girl Amber Dixon doing her thing with Be Fit and Focused. I swear, I promise you, I'm going to order one of those one day. But, Paterson is starting to come back to life from what I see. And then, of course, you got guys like Migsby, the Iron Giant, and I have to plug myself, doing things on the nerdy spectrum, the tech spectrum, the video game spectrum. Like, we are here to help lead the charge. Like, they always say, become the change you want to see. But it's like, I've never really changed. I want to be able to say that when Paterson has its great renaissance, and I know it's going to take a long time, it is. But everybody's got to want to take part of this. Everybody. And I know we can do it. And you know what? I should have said this from the start, but rest in peace to everybody we've lost in the last few nights, everyone we've lost in the last few weeks, months, past year. There's just too many of you to name. I'll be here for another 40 minutes. And my heart is with all of the families. My heart, my soul, and my deepest condolences are with all of you because I've been there. I know what it's like. That's why I'm speaking directly to my people. And I mean Paterson residents, all of you, regardless of your race. I'm speaking to my people that we can do this. But you have to want to do it. And I know there's so many of them that do. And I'm with you. If you need to know, or if you want to know what it is you need to do, hit me up. If I can't answer your question directly, I can hook you up with some people who can. Hard-working people who bust their asses to try to put the city back on the map. And to everybody in the city of Paterson listening to my voice right now, you can do this. We need you. We can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. But we can do it together. And I promise you, we can do this, and we will make Paterson what it once was. Even if we get it to 60 or 70% of what it once was. Do it. I mean, some of you out there, and I know a lot of you have already put your money back into the city, but if a bunch of us come together and pool our resources, we can start buying some land back in our city. We can start investing back in our people again. Because our people are worth it. And I don't care. I don't give a shit. I don't give a flying fuck. And I'm just going to throw, I don't give a fuck what you read in the papers or what you see on social media or what you see in the news. My city is great. And I will die on that hill. And I will, excuse me, I will die on that hill. And I will fight that fight. I don't care what anybody says. My city is great. And it will always be great. But we have to make it greater. I don't want the Falls to be the only thing about Paterson that has great in the title anymore. And I know I have some work to do as well. But I want to make sure that I'm not alone in that aspect. We can do this, guys. I believe in us. Thank you for tuning in to the Blatino Nerd. I will catch you on the next one. And as always, keep it nerdy.